Welcome back, everybody, to Weekly Wine Comic Time. This is episode 40, believe it or not. That's a pretty
Whoa.
big milestone right there. I guess that number, 50 is going to be the big one, I
Yeah.
guess. We're going to have to do something special for that.
Let's-
Maybe drink more wine.
Yeah. More wine.
I'm your host, Niko.
More comics, and I'm Christine.
Welcome back to everybody. We all hope you're staying safe and healthy out there once again throughout this. A little bit of comic news at the top of the show. I don't know how it's going to play out, but today I had read online that DC Comics is now looking to, they've announced that the last week in April for new comic releases, they will be releasing their comics through a different vendor, through a different distributor other than Diamond. So
Dun, dun, dun.
they said they're going to be pairing with two other companies now moving forward. So I guess we'll wait and see what this means for the comic industry. Like, Diamond's definitely going to take a hit because of this. But given the state of things and how it's like a monopoly, there's only one game in town, essentially, prior to this, which is kind of ridiculous. But amidst all the rumors of Diamond not being financially well off, given the state of things now with DC possibly going to another distributor, and them saying they're resuming their shipping in May, which they recently just announced as
really?
well. Yeah,
I didn't
so
know that.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. If it's just DC new comics that week and nobody else, like Marvel hasn't announced nothing yet. I'm sure they will, because once DC announces something, Marvel's right on the heels normally of that, and
Vice versa.
Right. So, so wait and see. For now, we'll probably just be keeping the same format of reading older comics, which I've been having fun with.
It gives it's an excuse to deep dive.
Yeah, and read things that are in our to read pile anyways. So it's been good. But yeah, in a couple weeks that might change back. There might be new release stuff coming out again. So stay tuned. We'll update you as we go with that.
Totally.
And today our wine on National Malbec Day, apparently, right?
World
Is that
Malbec Day,
World
I've
Malbec
heard,
Day?
yeah.
It seems like they're just making up days now for
I'm okay
whatever.
with it.
Yeah. But apparently
booze
we were
related, at
told, your father actually has told us that today was Malbec Day, so we picked up one that we quite enjoyed, and the price is right too. It was only like $10, right? Yeah.
10 and
This
change.
is Mysterio, and it's also kind of comic themed if you think about it, like Spider-Man's villain, but spelled differently. I think it's Misterio is the name of the wine.
Yeah, it looks a little creepy. It's got that little bit of horror vibe to the packaging of it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. You see like a hand kind of creeping up on top of like the label, bending it back, right? So it's kind of like it's all
mystery. Who's behind the label?
So Mysterio, it's a Malbec from Mendoza in Argentina, and it's quite tasty. I like this one, and I actually didn't even think of the price, like didn't even take in like when buying this. It's just that when you told me it was Malbec Day and you were in the liquor store,
know we like this one.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh, I like that one, and the price just made it even that much better, right? So it's a tasty. It says here you can pair it with steak, pizza. It's a stronger tasting cheese. Yeah, like it looks like maybe that's pasta. I'm not sure. Barbecue.
We paired it with a tuna wrap.
Yeah. Maybe not the best thing to pair with a tuna wrap.
We drank it after the tuna wrap, but still.
We're trying to eat a little bit better during this quarantine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've been cooking a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
We've been eating a lot because I cook a lot.
I think everybody's eating a little bit too much right now, right? What else is there to do?
Whatever makes you happy right now, just do it.
Exactly. And another thing that makes us happy are reading comics. Yeah, there you go.
Segue.
Getting better at that.
I know.
40 episodes in. Who would have thought? Okay, so first up, I guess I'll get us started here. We've kept to our kind of at least talk about 10 books, 5 each, which we've done this week as well. Wide spectrum of different types of comics here. Definitely interesting stuff.
There's no really good rhyme or reason here.
Yeah.
It's just
whatever looked interesting.
Whatever caught our fancy when we looked through our piles.
So first up, I'll talk about Monsters #1. So this was a one shot that I thought maybe would have came out before those series, but when you get to the end of the issue, they actually are advertising the fact that there's already 2 volumes of Monsters Unleashed, which was like a like a semi small like event. It was like a 5-issue miniseries that they came out with, where they created Cullen Bunn created this kid kaiju character who draws monsters. Kaiju, of course, being the word for like like
Godzilla type monsters.
yeah, big
large
monster essentially.
monsters.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously from the Japanese, all that
Yeah.
Godzilla stuff, they're all kind of referred to as kaiju and
Mothra,
stuff like
Mothra.
Yeah. And yeah, so Kid Kaiju, I guess he has the power to like draw things in his notebook and they come to life. And I mean, this issue kind of set up another villain kind of moving forward. I think that would have continued either in his main series or in something else maybe that spun out of this. But other than that, it was pretty separate from anything going on. All they kind of showed you was like the introduction was Kid Kaiju finding a book of monsters and then being concerned that somebody else could get their hands on them. And it turned out to be Kid Frankenstein, which I think is that kid from Wolverine and the X-Men, right?
I
Isn't
think
it?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Professor Frankenstein, whatever his name was. But he's essentially like he's a younger kid, but
Yeah, he's a younger Frankenstein.
yeah, exactly.
Not the monster.
Still a mad scientist, though, right? So, so that was cool. So at the end of it, he kind of swooped up and tried to and took the book from him, and or at least attempted to. I don't think he was successful, right?
No, I think they snagged it away.
Yeah. But it kind of the easy setup of this issue was that he found the book and then he's like, oh cool, a book of all these like different monsters. And then what you got preceding that was a single splash pages by different great artists. I mean, the first artist that they kicked off with here was none other than James Stokoe, who I'm a huge fan of, and of course he had to draw Fin Fang Foom, probably the most well known of all these kaiju that they put in the pages of this issue. And then you get Nick Bradshaw, Becky Cloonan. I mean,
just fantastic.
Yeah, there's some great people here. So this is written by Cullen Bunn. And the intro art and the end caps of the issue were drawn by Scott Hepburn, who again is the guy you want drawing your monster comic, right? We've talked about his stuff on here before, how we're big fans. So right there, that was cool too, right off the bat. And then yeah, James Stokoe, Bradshaw, Becky Cloonan, Jason Burrows, Clayton Crane, Gerardo Zeffino, Michael Allred, Stephanie Hans, and Juan Jose Rip. Like, it's just some great artists. And the cool thing about those splash pages was like they also had like like they had like one was just a splash page image of the kaiju in question, and then the next page beside it was one breaking down all the specifics of the characters, like like
if they had specialty like arms or like different weaponized areas in them and what everything would do. Like, it was fucking really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, just a cool little. I mean, like again, like there wasn't much story here. Like I mentioned, it was mostly just setup. And the cool part about it was the kaiju manual of different monsters and getting to see different artists kind of take a stab at these guys. So for me, it was kind of a treat in that sense because I didn't really know that this was what it was, but some great art, art in it, right? And cool concept. And like I said, you even got Scott Hepburn doing the art in the end caps of the issue, so that was cool too to see. So it was fun. I mean, it wasn't, like I said, nothing crazy.
It wasn't like a story line.
No,
there wasn't much of a storyline.
Wasn't a lot of substance, but definitely.
I always like a breakdown of things.
Yeah, and a cool introduction to some of these monsters, right?
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
Aptly named Monsters, the issue number 1, and Cullen Bunn did a fine job of setting all that up. So, it says on the cover here, includes magnificent monsters drawn by matchless Marvel maestros. Yeah, got a little bit of that '60s kind of Marvel
60s
vibe,
gimmick
right?
there.
Yeah, the Stan Lee-esque right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was all right.
I thought it was fun. The art was awesome in it. Like, you can't go wrong with the fucking art that was there.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a fun, cool info book.
Yeah.
And to go along with the info book, I can't believe that this is actually a 10-issue series.
Like there's like 10 or 12. Yeah, it's definitely more than it should be.
The Punisher Armory. This is volume 1. This is literally what it's called. Is just apparently it's supposed to be the Punisher's like thoughts and like him basically writing down all of this and his thoughts and feelings of his
Yeah, made in the
Armory.
90s. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, but
Kind
essentially
of, it's
was it
ridiculously ridiculous.
Yeah, what it essentially is an issue of all of Punisher describing his weapons.
Yeah, it's like journaling his armory, like his weapons,
His tech,
like his
microchips tech, yeah.
He's got like his cars, like literally every little thing that you could think of that he may use. And again, this is just the first issue. And it went through a shit ton of things. Like, I don't know how they did 10 to 12
I don't know.
issues of this.
Yeah, we got them all.
There's zero storyline. There's no storyline. It's just literally different pictures. Like, somebody drew pictures of all
Better
these
yet,
guns.
how did they get away with this? They were selling comics like this with actual pretty accurate depictions of these weapons.
And what they do and what they're used for. Like, they have the whole...
Like when they started getting into the tech, it kind of got ridiculous, but like it's supposed to be fantastical in the sense like, oh, this guy's a genius. Look at all the shit he's doing. But even in that sense, like it's nothing that like that's too far out of the, you know what I mean? Like
but especially
too much of a stretch. Like it's basically again, like where did he get them?
People could technically get a hold of
Yeah.
if they wanted to. Like you could do this. And like it even tells you how to modify certain things to make it better.
Yeah.
It was weird. And then at the very end page is basically how to like snipe someone and what sniper to use and the wind velocity. Like it's ridiculous, this book.
Yeah.
Like that, I can't even really say anything else. It's just this is a ridiculous book, and I don't know that it. Like, I don't know how this thing exists.
Well, that's why I picked up the issues when I saw them, because just pure just like you know what I mean, like
curiosity. At this point.
Not just that, just the whole gimmick of it, like just to own them. I thought was pretty neat that they actually printed something like this. Like I don't know if they'll ever reprint it, so it's kind of interesting.
In this day and age, there's no way.
But yeah, the thing that you picked up on while reading it, you commented on that I thought was pretty funny was the fact that you said, I don't know if the Punisher would talk like this, like whoever's like depicting the guns. And then I was like, well, you know, I'm like he has a wide knowledge of this type of stuff, right? Because I hadn't read at that point.
Calculative.
Yeah, he's very calculative. I said, you know. Then when I was reading it, I was like, yeah, I see what you mean. At times it felt like the Punisher was writing in as a fan of like a Guns and Ammo magazine, like you know how like, they have these magazines where they show the products off and shit like that.
That's
and again, there are people that are fanatical about weapons like this. A lot of Americans, and
but I don't think the Punisher is that person.
I mean, he definitely knows his shit, and he's definitely like this is his bread and butter. I mean, this is what he's like. You know what I mean? Like this is his business.
Know it, but I can't see him sitting there and writing about it. And
what I'm saying is that the journal entries. Well, here's the
things.
thing, though. He does write a journal, though. There's even a book called
Ammo.
Well, there's a book called Punisher War Journal, which is about like
I know,
but
his
it's
war stories.
Right, but not. Like you said, not maybe about the fact of the matter is the way he talks about the weapons in this is like he's writing a review to a magazine. So it sounds kind of ridiculous. And like they even try to like make it sound like kind of like it comes off a little bit corny but funny, like where he's like, yeah, and you might just it might be a nice enough day that you might want to use this to shoot something. You know what I mean? Like just little comments like that. Yeah. Oh, you know,
go through my day and shoot this bird.
Yeah,
like, target practice.
Right. It's just the little comments that they were making with
well,
it.
Even
just...
sorry to cut you off there. Even like his armor, when he starts talking about the bulletproof vests and how it pains him to put his emblem on the vests and then shoot them. He's like, well, I know I have a lot of these, but I still can't get over the fact of like putting bullet holes in them.
Yeah, let me see the issue. There was one page in particular. Yeah, he's like, oh, it's such a beautiful, you know what I mean, piece of armor or whatever. Yeah, there's one where he talks about the knives and the
oh yeah.
I just want to read the last line of what he says for the knives. It's hilarious. Yeah, it was funny. It's a funny, gimmicky kind of thing. I definitely think, like, again, this is not something you'd look to for substance of story because there is none to be found here. No. Although some of the comments and the way it was written are quite funny, I gotta say. And now I'm having a hard time finding it, of course. Here we go. Yeah, he's like, it's quite. This is so after he's already talked about, and this there's a lot of dialogue
Yeah,
here.
like
For,
it's a wordy bitch
yeah,
to get
yeah,
through.
yeah. So you have a whole page where he describes like all his knives. They're like on like a little piece of material, like one of those knife bags that you like if you're a
Unrolled,
hunter, you
yeah.
unroll, right? So they're all laid out here, and he's talking about each one here in the descriptions. Then when he gets to the end, it's like it's quite a pile of cutlery, but it's time well spent, and I find it relaxing too.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, what is this? Like I was like,
I don't ever see the Punisher
Say
sitting
that.
there going, "This is relaxing to me."
And if he'd found it relaxing, he would never fucking admit it.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just seemed like
it was just odd.
he has too much to say here. Like,
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's what I thought. It just didn't seem very Punisher-like. Like he talked a lot.
like if they said at least prefaced it by saying like this is his armory, but this is in the words of like somebody who's like, you know what I mean, like
a fanatic. Like,
yeah, or microchip or somebody.
Yeah, like the right-hand man or something.
Right,
close
but the
to
fact
him.
that they're supposed to think this is the Punisher saying,
Or they
that,
could have said,
then-
like, this is the inner thoughts of Punisher or something like that. Like, for him to just sit there and
Yeah.
write this stuff down was bizarre.
Yeah, so it's not so much a criticism; it's just funny,
Yeah.
right? It's just
Entertainment.
yeah. So next up, we got 1963, Book 1. Now this is a 6-issue miniseries. It was supposed to be 7. This was supposed to end on an annual, but it
Oh,
never
really?
came out. There's a story behind that.
Oh.
Apparently, Jim Lee, of course, of Image Comics at that time, had announced he was going to be drawing the annual, but that never came to fruition for a number of reasons, with the creative team not actually being able to get together and accomplish
Oh.
that. So yeah, I learned a little bit about that recently, but this is a book that actually came out in the early 90s. Came out in 93 from Image Comics. This is, after the first or second waves of like popular Image books that come out. They were able to snag Alan Moore, obviously a very famous, well-known fucking
yeah.
writer, by enticing him to come over to Image. And this was a series, I guess, with some of the other artists involved that figured, hey, let's go. Apparently, it was like it was a payday for them, right? Like
yeah.
from what I've been told, like this
Okay.
was like Image at that time. They were selling millions of copies of books, so they're like, okay, let's go
they
over
were
there
a
and
big
do this.
thing at early 90s.
But if you look at everything that was coming out from Image at this time, nothing looked like this. Like the way this issue looks is that they're trying to make it look like an actual book from the 60s, hence the 1963 title of the book, right? And
you wouldn't think it was from the 90s.
Yeah, and every issue that came out was a different kind of like look at like comics from like back then, like their take on something else essentially.
Okay.
So not every book in the series is called the same thing. Like you'll see the 1963 in the corner, but this one's called Mystery Incorporated. Which in this one they basically did their take on the Fantastic Four. That's essentially what this was. I mean, it's pretty clear.
I liked Planet Man.
But yeah, it was like supposed to be the thing. Yeah, so yeah, what's it? Yeah, the Planet. I think his name's just Planet.
I think so too.
And then the other character was Kid Dynamo, who's basically like an electric version of like a Human Torch, essentially. Then you had what's her name here? Just says Genie on it. Neon Queen, who was
that's her name.
basically Invisible Woman, but she had different types. She had
turns
gas.
into mist.
Yeah, she was like gaseous or gaseous. Whatever however you say that. Yeah. And then Crystal Man, who is basically Mr. Fantastic, but he's made of crystals instead of rubber and stretching.
Yeah.
He can actually create forms and stretch the crystals out instead of like an actual like being a rubberized version of himself, which is strange. That's what I mean. Like I will say I really enjoyed this because even the writing was very old school, like Alan Moore. Alan Moore is like, you know what I mean, like such a good writer that he was able to like basically
really depict it well.
Yeah, and actually write that way purposefully, but not in a bad way. Like it was done well.
It was kitschy, but done really good.
Right. So
and it didn't like lose you. Like it was wordy, but it wasn't too wordy, or like the story didn't lag.
But just like the little touches, like the way like people were like making references from the '60s, like they're like, oh, who do you... I can't even recall, but he basically like he made like a reference to like a TV show from the '60s, like who are you, this guy or whatever, like and like things like that, and like you pointed out at the bottom of the page where it used to say continued after next ad or whatever, which they used to do in the old Marvel comics back then. Like they would actually tell you the bottom of the page, like the story continues after the ad on the next page. It would actually warn you. Like
Don't stop reading.
Yeah, and just like the little things where they used to say, like, check out Mystery Incorporated issue 17 for this one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where they reference something and they would try to entice you to buy that issue.
Buy the next thing.
So things like that, and the paper stock that it came on, and even the artwork. I mean, this is written by Al Moore. He had Rick Veitch on art, did the pencils. Dave Gibbons of Watchmen fame did the inks on Rick Veitch's art. And then you had Don Simpson, who was more of an indie cartoonist around this time as well. He did the letters on this. So, like, just an all-star team of, like, interesting indie and, like, well-versed creators, like, on this series. And then you had different artists on different issues. He's Stephen Bissette coming up now. A lot of these names, I think, are people that you may not as be familiar with, and neither am I, truth be told. I'm aware of them by name, other than Alan Moore. I haven't read too many of their works, but I'm aware of who they are. Like Rick Veitch, Stephen Bissette, like the guys that worked on these issues. Some of these are basically the guys who worked on Swamp Thing with Alan Moore when he first blew up. Yeah, so yeah, great stuff. I had a lot of fun reading this. It was your classic, like, bad guy of the week. Like, bad guy sneaks into the Fantastic Four base, which I've read many issues of Fantastic Four where that used to happen. Somehow they would break into the Fantastic Four headquarters, and they had to, like, fight him and figure out what he's doing there, and, like, his diabolical scheme, right? So I had a lot of fun reading this. I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to the next few issues. If you guys can find this, I'm sure you can find this cheap in the dollar bins. I was gonna say quarter bins, at least where we are from. That doesn't exist really anymore. But
what's worth a quarter?
If you can find these, though, collect these, because it's not collected in any other form. No, this is never being collected.
Oh shit!
Like in a paperback. So there's 6 issues of it, 1963. And actually, the issue, it's kind of meta. Okay, here. So when you flip open the issue, it shows you upcoming issues. It says Tales of the Uncanny here. Now, this issue right here, I actually recall when I was in a comic book store when I was like 7 or 8, seeing that book, and I bought that book.
Oh, really?
But it was on the new comics rack, and it looked old to me. So I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. And I didn't really understand at that time what this was. Yeah. And that is the only issue out of this series that I owned.
Huh.
And for whatever reason, I've never forgotten that cover. And so I can't wait to actually go and read that because out of the 6 issues that I finally collected and have been reading now for the first time, I guess second being at least for that issue. For whatever reason, I picked that issue up when I was younger. I was like 7 or 8 at the time because this is 93. Yeah, so I would have been like 7 when I picked that up. But I'll never forget that. And I used to have it till like, not too long ago when I was younger. I would still have it in my collection. So I'm glad to have finally be checking this out. I'm interested in looking at the rest of them. What do you think of it?
I actually had a lot of fun. So when I first looked at this, I thought it was actually the Marvel friggin' book because even the corner
box,
when where it says Image, they have it looking like a Marvel box there.
Yeah.
Where it says the 1963, and then I read something and I was like, hold on a second. I looked and I was like, it's fucking Image. I got really thrown off by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really didn't know what this was at all, but I had a lot of fun reading it. I thought it was entertaining. The art was cool.
Yeah.
The characters were funny. I thought it was really good. Next up, we've got Ultimate Nightmare issue 1. I'm being told I'm not speaking into a mic properly, and it's throwing me off. So Ultimate Nightmare issue 1, I guess this is what, out of 3 different little shorts?
Yeah, it's the Galactus trilogy by Warren Ellis. He did 3 different, I think 4 or 5 issue miniseries in the Ultimate Universe for Marvel when it still existed, which it doesn't now. But this is like the alternate take on. This is where Miles Morales Spider-Man came out of. This is an Ultimate Universe.
Okay. I was like, I have no idea, but I just like the idea that it said Nightmare.
Yeah,
that's what caught my eye. So yeah, like you said, it's from written by Warren Ellis. The pencils are by Trevor Hairsine, and inks by Simon Colby. And I thought this was pretty cool first issue. So basically, it's a alien invasion, and it has X-Men and Avengers in it. Long story short, that's what this book is.
But then I guess there's a lot of secrecy going on in this first issue where it seems like someone killed a bunch of aliens, like an alien
It's
species.
like Area 51. All the
Yeah.
conspiracies.
Yeah.
And the secrets.
And now they're kind of looking into things right now, right?
Yeah,
And
so
then-
like somebody killed whatever came in, and then it looks like they've somehow gotten a hold of like the TVs or like your broadcasting,
Yeah.
that's the word I'm looking for. So it's taken over everybody's broadcasting, and it's showing essentially like I guess a planet that's getting destroyed. So
Yeah.
you see like this alien race is standing here, and the next thing you know everything turns black and it looks like the entire planet just gets wiped out.
Right.
Everyone's kind of distraught, doesn't know what the fuck is going on. You get a little bit of X-Men at the beginning there, and then by the end of it you're more in getting introduced to the Avengers coming into play.
Yeah, Nick Fury, Captain America.
They're basically going to find Falcon, and
they contacted Falcon and told him to suit up and join them. Yeah. So.
yeah, so he was in like a remote jungle.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, let's go. And what was it like? They were trying to say like, oh yeah, we got your
like
we got your
tracker
stats
him.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh yeah, okay.
He's like, how did you find me? He's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's right, Fury. You have a tracker in me. Yeah, it's because of course it's Nick fucking Fury, right?
I had fun with this. I actually liked it.
I liked it. I thought it was kind of sparse for a first issue, to be honest with you. Like, but it was enough there to kind of keep me interested for sure. I just thought I was, you know,
didn't dive deep. That's for sure.
No, and with just with Warren Ellis, with like you know what I mean. We've learned to, like he doesn't give you much sometimes, right? He has a certain pacing that he wants to tell of a story, right?
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, but yeah, I liked it enough. I mean, we have the whole trilogy, so I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it. But
I'm just glad I picked the first one of the first trilogy.
Yeah, but just know these are like, look at this in a way where it's like Elseworlds. Like this is not in continuity because
That's
this
fine.
is
I
like
like
an
those
ultimate.
better.
Yes, so, as do I usually. Yeah, right. So yeah. All right, so next up we got Hellshock #1 by Jay Lee, written and drawn by Jay Lee. Image Comics. This is issue #1 of 4, I believe it says at the end here.
I think so.
Jay Lee, I'm a huge fan of his artwork. I really like his stuff. This is back when, 90s again, Image Comics. Probably the only thing I'm aware of that he wrote and drew on his own. He may have done other things after this, but like up to this point in time, as well as afterwards, I don't know if he has. At least nothing I've seen. And there may be a reason for that, because I didn't feel like this was written that well. There wasn't, again, much here. His art style is even
so
for
different in this.
Exactly, even for this time period, because that is where, even before this book, is when he really kind of, I think, when he started making a name for himself. Like after he was doing like some Marvel books, he did like Namor, and he did like I seen some of his early. He did some Iron Fist issues, and then he went over and did some of the Image stuff, and I think he did some X Factor stuff that may have been. I think that was before this as well. Anyways, his stuff was starting to look like what we think of Jay Lee today, like very inky, shadowy.
Dark,
yeah, exactly. And even though it's still not what it looked like to be today, and not even how it looks like in another book we'll be talking about tonight as well. This is, again, a much different style, I think, that he was showing at this point.
Early 90s?
Yeah, I think this is 94.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The one I have is 10 years later.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very, this looks, instead of it being, so here's the thing, this Hellshock, at the end of the issue, they show you some pages, I guess, that were discarded that they didn't move forward with doing. And I really like that stuff. So I was like, how come they didn't use these? And they used it, and they just showed you the pencils and inks.
Yes.
Like, so I don't know if it's the color.
That changed the look of everything. Yeah.
I don't think it's just the color, because but
I think the vibe is very different.
because this kind of without color would look like, except for this fake fucking fire here. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell that is.
Yeah.
That looks ridiculous. That is obviously a computer image that they just put
That's
in
not
there.
drawn in,
'Cause this is-
by hand.
Because this is the time when they started doing an image, like they started doing computer coloring and all this kind of stuff, right?
Okay,
So,
yeah.
and if you even look at the start of this issue, like this is, oh no, this is Jose Villarrubia. He's the guy. Didn't that guy work on Sweet Tooth? I think it is. But then you have computer colors by David Lark. So you got traditional colors, and then you got computer colors, which I'm sure is that fucking fake fire. Yeah, which looks shit. I don't know. Anyways, I was like,
enough about the fire.
Yeah. There's some fire in one of the scenes. There's a double page spread in this, and it just looks cheesy because you could tell like the image was put in after on. Yeah. So this is still the early days of computer stuff in comics, I think. Yeah. But at the back, they show you about 4 or 5 pages that were unpublished. It says, "Here's a look at the original Hellshock tale, which was subsequently being banished to hell." And it looks really good.
Yeah,
it
looked great
because it's all just pencils, and then I'm like, there's Jay Lee. But then you flip back and look at this. There's some painterly style stuff going on in this.
There's a lot happening.
Yeah, and then you see some signs of Jay Lee, kind of whatever I would expect of him at this time period. But then he's showing different kind of art styles throughout this and other scenes, and it was very short. It felt like it was only like 10 or 12 pages.
Yeah.
And then you got to be continued, and then you got a bunch of pinups by him, which again, the pinups aren't great. I mean, I think it has to do a lot with the colors for me, though. The colors are kind of distracting.
They tried to make it very moody, but it's very stark, where it's like very blue and it's very red, like it's very two-toned. That's it.
As a result, though, it takes away from his inkiness, like what I like about his art.
Agree.
And yeah, so it was basically a story about a priest who got killed, and there's somebody lurking around in a church, and then this guy pulls up, who's, I guess, investigating like supernatural stuff. Like he felt like almost like, I don't know, like
Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah, yeah. It did feel very End of Days. Yeah, it did. Arnold Schwarzenegger's classic End of Days, of course. It did feel like that. There's priests, and it's definitely taking a shit on religion. Yeah. Like he definitely.
It's of that time too.
Yeah.
It's the time like just after Exorcist, or it's around End of Days.
So I'm not mad at him for doing this kind of angle. And to be honest, I haven't seen this done too much in comics. This theme.
Yeah.
This definitely has been done. It's not like this was an original,
it's not
but
like
but there's a little boy who's like running away, like he's like in the streets, and he's like being pursued by some sort of evil, and then there's like a fucking evil dude in the church, and then the priest tries to like speak to him, and then they end up finding him dead, and then this guy's investigating the murder, and at the end he finds the guy that was lurking around during the time that the priest got killed in the church, right? And then we kind of just end on that. And if it was 20 pages, it sure didn't feel like it. Again, I don't know. I
think we went from a lot of really wordy books to this one that wasn't very wordy.
Yeah.
And it just flew.
So maybe that's why I thought it didn't read well, and I thought the writing was bad. I just thought it was very simplistic compared to like most other things.
I actually really wanted to continue.
Well, I was digging the visuals for sure. I mean, just because
the story, I was like, but no. And then I was like, well, where's the rest of it? You're like, I don't have it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah, the visuals were okay. I mean, sorry, no. The writing was okay.
I didn't think the writing was astounding, but I liked the storyline.
Like I said, it's not my favorite Jay Lee, but the visuals were cool to see, just to see like different Jay Lee art. Yeah, I like his art a lot. I'm a big Jay Lee fan. But yeah, that's all I really got to say about it. I would like to find the other issues of this series, if they are out there somewhere, but I don't have them right now. No. That's the only one.
Yeah, so you know what I felt about this. I wanted more. I don't know what it was about it. I thought we've seen the story, like you said.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned a couple of things that are similar to it.
Yeah.
But I just, in movie formats kind of thing.
You've been liking our trip down to the 90s. Lately.
But again, this is the era that I love.
Oh,
I love
it's your era.
And 90s. Well, 80s isn't my era. Hello.
90s is what I'm saying. Yeah.
So we'll continue on the Jay Lee, but this is the Jay Lee that we are very, very familiar with. And this is Hulk Thing Hard Knocks. And this is written by Bruce Jones and art by Jay Lee.
Who actually just wrote that book we read last week, the Scarecrow one.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's the same writer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to talk about a simple story... This is a simple fucking story.
I liked it, though, a lot.
I didn't have a problem with it. I'm just saying. They're in the fucking middle of the desert.
Yeah.
And, Thing rolls up to...
the diner that Bruce Banner is chilling in, drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Which is like a rundown diner.
Yeah, literally, there's nothing else around. There's a cactus that looks like it has a penis. And then he rolls up. There's not even like an inside. Like the doors are all broken off. And so Thing rolls up and he's wearing his trench coat and his hat and he's got his hands on his belt buckle, looking all like type of deal. And just sits his hat down beside him, takes his coat off. Then he throws Bruce Banner on the floor. Bruce Banner, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I got the name wrong for some reason.
Yeah, to piss him off and turn him into Hulk.
Turn him into the Hulk, and now you're seeing them sit there. Just, but like, there's one scene where you just, you know, those like, the ass bar stools that you see,
yeah,
where like people are in like thongs or whatever. It's essentially that type of view, but it's just of the Hulk and Thing's pants.
Yeah.
And like, because Hulk just went from Bruce Banner's pants are all like, purple, but like they're all torn up and barely hanging on to him. It was just a funny visual.
Now I have a question for you, because I recall when I picked up these issues, I showed you, I'm like, oh, look, Jay Lee art. I just found this miniseries I didn't know existed. And you were like, I don't like the way this looks. So
they look fucking weird to me.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because in the face, it's like he almost tried to humanize them, and they're big monsters. So like the way that they look, like
they're
their facial
bumpy,
fixtures,
but
they look kind of odd. And I will agree with you there, but I still dug the art.
I like the art, but they look weird, which is fine because they're monsters.
It's definitely not the way you want to see these characters, though. I'll say
they're not as cartoony. Like they have a lot of human emotion in them.
That's what I mean. Like he tried to
they made
humanize
them look bigger, like they're bulky, but they have like their face isn't just like squared, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's not like Thing doesn't just have blocks. Like he just looks kind of crackly.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
And even same with the Hulk. Like
the Hulk's
Hulk
face really bugs me.
Yes.
Yeah, I will give you that. The Hulk's face.
He looks like a mixture of Frankenstein and Hulk kind of thing.
But it's different. It's something
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't mind it. Like it's a vibe.
Yeah, it's not necessarily one I love, though. I agree with you there. So, like
the end page of the Hulk, like saying it's clobbering time, and he's like drooling and shit. Like, I don't know. He just looks odd. Which I don't know how I would expect Jay Lee to draw these characters, because this is almost exactly what I would think of him draw. Because he doesn't draw monsters, really. He draws humans that are bad very well, or like evil people, but not really like the gory monsters.
I mean, I've seen him draw a lot of superhero stuff, but like not like in this sense, no. And I think at the time I was kind of like, get the hell out of here to you, because I'm like, it's Jay Lee. Look, it's Jay Lee. But then when I actually read the issue, I was like, yeah, these aren't my favorite versions of them, but I still dug the art quite a bit.
That's what I mean. It's just, you have to kind of get used to it a little.
Yeah, and I would also say, even the Jay Lee in this is still a little even farther removed to what we would have seen 10 years from when this came out.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So this is what, 2004, you said?
Yeah, so 2014.
Yeah, so like what we've seen, not 10 years, but let's say like it's definitely closer to what we'd expect from him, but sorry, was this 2004 or 2014?
2004.
So yeah, so like what we saw like 10 years from when this came out.
2014.
Yeah, would have been something like that different, I think, even more so than this. Yeah. That's why it took me a second to think of the year, what year it is right now.
It does feel like it should be 2024.
Yeah, like if you look at his Watchmen stuff before Watchmen, I think his leaps and bounds looks better than this. But again, I think that's just it's a lot more detailed than what this is.
Yeah,
right?
Like this is literally like desert and these two characters. That's
for a guy though that doesn't put out too much work though. I've enjoyed seeing other things he's done,
things,
and like I'll pick up anything with his name on it just to check it out.
Like my Stephen King,
right? Yeah, the Dark Tower stuff. But I actually, for all that being said, I like the story in this. I like how it's just the Thing and him trading stories. Well, at this point, just the Thing. He's trying to trade stories and about anger issues and this and stuff with the Hulk, and he's not really fucking hearing it. and in between all the talking, they're kind of throwing a couple of punches around, right? So it's kind of like two buddies that have a long history catching up with one another and trying to piss each other off in between, just trading some shots. Nothing serious.
No.
There was the whole scene with a Southern woman freaking out because she thought that her child was going to get eaten.
And they're like, she's just like, do you want my lollipop?
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is, how do you feel about the Hulk fully talking?
Oh, like Intelligent Hulk?
Yeah.
Not a fan of Intelligent Hulk. I like dumbed down Hulk.
Yeah.
I've seen Intelligent Hulk. It's been done before. I mean,
know.
obviously, there's different versions.
Yeah.
That being said, even the current Hulk series, though, is mostly Intelligent Hulk.
Okay.
And I love that series. So I can't say that if my preference is dumbed down Hulk.
Yeah. Like
my
Bruce
preference.
Banner is the
Yes.
smart, intelligent
Yes,
genius.
that's the
and then
classic.
the Hulk, is
yeah. But I'm not
just ready to fight.
at this point. It's been done so many times. I'm not against the smarter Hulk.
Yeah.
One way of looking at it is throughout all the years he should have became smarter, right?
Yeah.
By transforming back and forth. So there's some logical kind of like the aspects of it. You could say, yeah, well, of course he's a little bit smarter now.
Yeah.
But in this, the dialogue from switching from Banner to Hulk, there was no difference whatsoever.
No.
Which I think there should be a little
Yes.
bit of a difference, not even just in the way that they
Like, it's
talk,
not like Bruce Banner.
but mind state as well,
Yes.
right? So again, yeah, I didn't love that part of it,
Okay.
but I liked these two just kind of chopping it up and
Yeah.
talking to each other, right? So, all right. So next up, I got Batman Arkham City #1. This is titled Endgame. I don't know if this is collecting a digital comic or if this is one of those oversized issues that just collect the whole mini series.
in one,
But this is an oversized issue. Like this is like one of those 64, 80-page comics. And this, I guess, is one that's depicting the video game Batman Arkham City, which came after Arkham Asylum. And the reason I picked it up is, even though I liked those games, was because of Jason Sean Alexander on art, who I really dig. Speaking of inkier, darker looking art style artists,
horror style artist.
yeah, he's somebody who you can definitely put in that category and whose art I really enjoy. Again, I just noticed he was the main artist on this, so seeing this much content of his art, I was like, okay, I'll grab that. It's written by Derek Fridolfs, who the only other stuff I know that he's done that I've read has been, like, I guess the stuff that he did with Dustin Nguyen at Batman Little Gotham. He was the writer on that.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's worked with Dustin
love
Nguyen a
Little
lot.
Gotham.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. This was okay. Again, I think the highlight of this was the art for me. The story itself, what bugged me is like you can definitely tell they're just taking the story from the video game and adapting it for a comic, which I'm not normally a fan of. And because I'm already kind of familiar with the Arkham kind of asylum world, I was like, I was like a little bored at times. It was very wordy. I think it was overridden for one. If it wasn't for the visuals, I don't know how I would have gotten through this, because I quite enjoyed the visuals, the artwork throughout this. The other thing I don't like about this world, and I'm sure you're going to agree, this is something you were going to point out, is the design of these characters in the Arkham Asylum video game series. I mean, you have the ugliest Harley ever in this series with the red suit and the.
She's the one thing that I will not purchase. Yeah,
you saw her in the pages of this. He tried to do his best with it, but even by looking at it, you're still reminded of that's this shitty version and design.
She's not like the nurse outfit.
Right.
Ugh.
Right. And then his Joker is cool looking, though.
The Joker I liked.
Yeah, I really liked him. But yeah, I seen the Harley and I was like, oh yeah, this is the version I don't like ever. Also the Batman. I don't like how you could see his eyes so much in this mask. Like it was all actually even the next book I'm going to talk about was like kind of like that, but not as kind of bothersome as this one. Like there was moments where the eye hole is big and you could just see the eye and skin. And some artists choose to do Batman that way, but I'm not a fan of it. I like more of just the white. Yeah.
It's like the Spider-Man eye where it like the mask somehow moves with the eye movements.
Yeah. That doesn't bug me as much, but
me, but I actually like that. I'm just using that as a reference.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of, and
it's such a weakness.
It's also the way they make it look. Like, sometimes it's not as obvious that you're looking at, like, the next book I'm talking about, I didn't mind it as much. But in this one, I was like, I really don't dig how the eye holes
Yeah.
and the eye look on his mask.
Yeah.
And I know I'm probably just nitpicking here, but
It's glaring when
it
you're
stood out
reading
to
it,
me.
yeah.
I was like, I don't like that.
And that's
and
when
then,
you focus
then I
on,
seen
yeah.
Harley. I'm like, I don't like that. I was like, I don't like some of the designs in this game. Right? I like the games.
Yeah, but the designs were subpar.
But the story was essentially like ripped right out of there, and it felt like it at times. The time that it really again stood out to me was like when he sent him out to to run some task. And I'm like, and this would be a mission in the game. And I'm just like, this is annoying. I was just like, and I was like, cool art, but the story was meh.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this took me a little while. This was the last one I started reading last night before I started falling asleep, so I finished it off today. I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was fantastic.
Yeah.
The art was good. I liked how dark it was. It fit the mood for this. But like you said, like the it almost looks like some of the masks that they put him on. It looks like the Halloween mask
Yeah.
for Michael Myers. Like it's just like droopy and like that type of very sullen type of mask.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's kind of what that vibe was there, although that mask is better.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Classic.
The Harley was terrible. I'm glad she wasn't like a focus in this. She was in a couple pages, but I liked the hosing down of Joker and how they brought that back to Batman. But yeah, it was okay. My next one, we'll continue with Batman, is Batman and the Mad Monk. This is by Matt Wagner.
Yeah.
On everything except for colors, Dave Stewart.
Love his stuff.
Yeah, this was awesome. That's why I picked this one, because I saw his name and I was like, ooh. But they've got like the cool kind of purple Catwoman suit in this one, so it's a Catwoman Batman story.
Yeah.
Which it's not like the super duper sexy Catwoman.
No, it's more of like the like 70s version of her or something. It's in the series of costumes we've seen over the years, but I think it's like more like the 60s or 70s
yeah, it's
version.
Like very cat-like. Like it has the legit tail, it has the whiskers.
I like this one though as well.
I do.
Yeah,
I like it. I like this the look of her.
Yeah.
But yeah, like basically she's got the poison talons and she's able to slice through Batman's shirt armor.
Yeah.
And he's tripping balls while going to see Gordon on the top of the roof.
Yes.
And he's like
The Gordon scene was my favorite of the whole issue.
I liked
like Gordon tries to single-handedly fight like 4 cops that are like
fucking crazy
bastards, and they're trying to fuck with them, right? And this is during that time where he's just he's not the commissioner yet.
No, he's just another detective.
Well, no, he's not a detective. He's
captain or something.
Yeah, he's like the lead of his crew, but he's at the same
captain,
time
not the commissioner.
Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
So yeah, and then he like notices that, or so Batman flies in when he's kicking ass and stuff like that, and he throws like one of the guys off the building.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, you can't kill him." And obviously Batman's not ready to kill him. He has him tied up to the Batarang and like lowers him down, but he's all like, he's tripping balls at the same time, so he's like freaking out, and it's almost like he could have dropped him easily. But yeah, it was a really cool start to a Catwoman story, and I don't know who this Nikolai chick is.
I'm not familiar, no.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. But I wanted to read more, so this is a 6-issue miniseries that we have everything of.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read the rest of it.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't really have too much to add other than the fact that
good.
I had been looking for these miniseries that he did. He did 2.
Okay.
He did Batman and the Mad Monk, and he also did Batman and the Monster Men, both written and drawn by him. Was looking for those miniseries in its whole for a long time.
Okay.
So when I came across them, I was really happy, and I'm really looking forward to reading those because they're apparently both really good. Big fan of his art. I think his style is different than everybody else's in the sense that what I find he brings to stuff is that it looks very old school and new school at the same time.
Yeah. Like he uses old school designs, but in like a very new school kind of way.
And I think that you just tapped into the other thing that's really interesting about his artwork is his design elements and just the look of how he makes things, and the design, exactly like you said, like it's just he's just really good. And again, like I think it's somebody who hasn't worked he's definitely worked in Big Two comics a lot, but he did a lot of his best work on his own books early
Yeah.
in the 90s. So like to see him on Batman is
It's
really
really neat,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Like, I
also
like his dark fine lines,
Yeah.
like very distinct lining and everything.
yeah.
I really like.
I also got his Grendel Batman miniseries as well.
Oh, that's him too.
That's him as well.
Ooh.
Grendel is his. Grendel's his creation.
I'm not as familiar with him, but
Yeah.
I know I like the art.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig his art quite a bit. All right, and last off for me, I got the Action Comics Annual #1. This is from 1987. This is by John Byrne and Art Adams and Dick Giordano on inks on this one. And shout out to Cartoonist Kayfabe. That's a great show. Definitely check it out. I've talked about it on the show here before. They're the ones that actually put me on to this issue in particular. Because, again, an artist that is really, really fucking good, who I really enjoy, and you don't see do too much work, is Art Adams. And I was not aware that he drew this annual of this. Because, again, Art Adams is a guy you primarily see on Marvel stuff. You can definitely see his style heavily influenced, like a lot of people compare Nick Bradshaw to his art style.
Okay.
I think, for one, you can see it. Like, I find that a lot of the time, some of the women that he draws, they look very young in the face.
Yes.
Almost
Very doe-eyed.
Almost kind of in a wrong way. I've heard people comment that they don't like how he draws women because it makes it kind of look very
Wrong.
creepy. Yeah, wrong, exactly, in a sense.
But they're very, like,
because they're very innocent looking.
Yeah, like the
and
eyes
very,
are big and they look very...
I like how he does it just because it's like, yes, at times even like I'm like,
It
like,
can be touchy, but...
No, but it's stylistic. It's the way he
Yes.
wants to draw them. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I love the detail that he puts into his work. In this, I particularly liked even the views of the layouts of the pages. Like he did a lot of
The angles and
bird's
stuff,
eye
yeah.
view, kind of like page layouts, like where somebody would walk into a scene and it's like
Yeah, you see the top of their head basically walking in.
Yeah. I don't know if that's bird's eye
Yeah.
view. Yeah, is it? Yeah, okay. So yeah, essentially like what you'd see from an overhead angle, right?
It's like if there was a camera in the corner of the wall or the corner of the ceiling walking in and looking out. So
yeah, so I dug that. You don't really see that done all too often. But yeah, he's a guy who I like his work. I haven't seen him do much DC stuff, so when I heard that he did this one annual in particular, and that was a thing he used to do a lot back then too, is like he used to do like annuals of the X-Men like every so
really?
often, but he wouldn't be the regular ongoing artist or anything.
he was just like the special brought on one.
Yeah, and he's notoriously slow. Like
Okay.
he'll lose interest, he'll spend too much time on certain things.
Okay.
That's why in some areas of this you'll notice there's fucking no backgrounds in a
Yeah.
lot of this, and then others there's super detailed
Yeah.
moments and even interesting zoom in scenes. Like he's playing a lot with like the way like perspective in this, like the way like
I
he's
did notice that, actually,
deciding to draw different scenes, right? And the story essentially was, again, Batman showed up. This is mostly a Batman issue.
That's what I thought too, yeah.
I mean, it's Action Comics, so like of course Superman's in it. This is his series. This
That
is
just
when
threw me off
John
when
Byrne
I read it. Yeah.
yeah, this is when John Byrne was writing it and drawing the main series, right? So another big artist in his own right at that time. So yeah, basically, Batman is investigating some weird happenings in a town, and like in the swamplands or something like that. And it turns out the town is under like the
it's, like,
spell
very deep
of
south.
this young innocent girl who turns out to be she's a vampire, but you
Yeah.
really don't see her transform into a vampire until like the last couple of pages of the story.
Yeah.
And like she's got like a weird spell over the people of the town, and like I guess that it's vampire in the classic like they can influence people kind of style. You know how there's
Yeah,
like
so it
different
was,
types
like,
of vampires and
It
stuff.
wasn't that. So she had control over them, and it was in the sense that where if you were able to kill the head vampire,
Right.
everyone else would be like out from under her spell. Like they weren't trying to murder people; they were just fucking shit up. They even said, like I think that's what Superman had noted was like. They were he was going through the town and just being
Yeah.
like, well, things are like fucked up and like people are ransacking things, but they're not attacking each other. They're not like killing each other, and they're not trying to obviously suck people's blood.
Right.
Um,
So that's what I mean. Like even at first, it didn't seem like a vampire story, but then like the more you got into it, it kind of started showing some signs of
Yeah.
that. And I actually liked the way that the story unfolded in this, because for a lot of the time it's just a big mystery and you don't really know what's happening. And Batman is investigating them, and then he has like a full scene where he goes to the morgue and he's talking to fucking Gordon and the morgue attendant, and then like they're talking about how these two bodies were drained, and like Gordon's like going through all of his questions that he had and trying to address all of them.
Yeah.
And then, he's like, oh, this, curiouser and curiouser. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like he was like Batman actually doing detective work, right? And again, he did the eye thing in some of this, and some of it he didn't. There's definitely, it looked like influence from The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller kind of Batman and Superman in this, that Art Adams kind of, like him jumping off the rooftop. Those are classic scenes. I mean, it kind of seemed like he wasn't, because Art Adams in his own right is a great artist. He kind of definitely took inspiration, I think, of some of the stuff that was going on at that time. Although this is 1987, so that's roughly around the same time as Dark Knight. I think it's the same year. So
maybe it's just the style of it on that area.
Maybe. So yeah, I just dug it. I'm a big fan of his art. It was a nice little one and done because it was an annual, so I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I really liked this too. I thought it was really fucked up because, like you said, once again, I don't know any context to these friggin' books that we're reading. I just kind of look at it and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Which is really fun, actually. But yeah, so like the girl starts out, she needs help and she wants to save her parents. And this is when, also Bruce Wayne in disguise mode, which you didn't say anything
I thought it was
about.
Clark Kent at first. I was like, is that Clark with the mustache?
It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I kept having to look. I'm like, what the fuck book am I reading? Because I'm like, Batman's in this more than anything.
Yeah.
But then he gets to the girl's house and he's like, what the fuck? You live all the way out here? Like,
in the
you
swamp.
literally are in the marshes right now. And like, she goes to the room and it's her parents have been like dead for a fucking
very Bates Motel kind of
they're mummified at this point. And he's like,
he's like, I gotta go.
He's like, I need to help them, and he's just like,
no, but at that time he's like in a trance or something, right? And then she throws him in quicksand, and at the end he reveals that was the funniest reveal. She's like, I thought you were dead. You went in quicksand. He's like, aha, but if you don't freak out when you fall in quicksand,
Superman
you could swim
that.
through it. Yeah.
It's like swimming in a pool.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not. It is true that they say if you freak out, it's gonna go faster.
It's like the Never Ending Story taught us that.
That's right. That's right. I just couldn't imagine. Like in my head, I'm just like
trying to swim through sand. You're like, this is so easy.
Yeah, I'm like the way he made it seem. Oh, I just swam through it. I was just like, what?
It's the Batman effort and things.
Yeah,
it just works.
Just Batman's the shit out of it. Yeah, exactly.
He's through it. So, the last issue that we have for today is An Accidental Death. This is written by Ed Brubaker and art by Eric Shanower. Yeah. Which threw you off because the cover is backwards on here.
Right, and the reason I picked this up because like knowing that Ed Brubaker was a cartoonist early on in those days when he started out, and this being by Fantagraphics, an indie comic book company who doesn't really make too many single issue stuff nowadays, and back then definitely a little bit more so. I was quite just interested in seeing the cartooning of Ed Brubaker because I've read another early thing by him, but then I was pleasantly surprised at the fact that he wrote this. So I was like, wow, what a treat!
Yeah,
I was like, this is fucking early Ed Brubaker that I've never even knew existed until I saw this, right?
Yeah.
So
this was great.
I liked it a lot. Yeah,
totally. I was so sad when this like just ended and it's a one and done thing. I could read the shit out of this. Like, so basically it's like two army brats basically they finally move into a place where they're there for like 2 years, so they're not bopping around every few months or something. They're in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
And essentially this one guy becomes obsessed with this girl.
Yeah.
And like he thinks, she notices it. Well, so the reason was they saw her. They were peeping toms and saw her naked.
Yes.
And then he was just like, "Whoa!" And ever since then, like in school, she's like, "She loves me."
But you're forgetting the weirdest part about that is that originally they were trying to peep on the parents, and one of them's a little person.
Yeah.
And they were
right.
they were.
they were like, oh my God, that woman, look at the size of her. So that they were just like,
they wanted to see her having sex.
they wanted to see a little person having sex because
Yeah.
they were like, I guess you didn't see it that often then. It was maybe very taboo at that time.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even wrap their heads around the fact that a little person was with a regular sized person.
Yes.
So like they were like, let's go. And then they looked in and they see them like, I don't know what they were doing. Like
They were playing cards.
yeah. And
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, this is boring.
Gin
And then,
rummy, yeah.
and meanwhile, the whole time they should have been looking at the young fucking girl.
Yeah.
That's her age.
The
they're-
daughter that
yeah.
they have, yeah, that goes to their school.
Well, I mean, they
either way,
shouldn't
that's
have,
what I was
but
gonna say, I'm
yeah.
like, you shouldn't be peeping Tom anyway.
I'm just saying, if they're peeping Toms, at least look
Yeah.
at someone your own age. Like
Yeah.
that kind of seemed like very strange. Like
Yeah, the whole thing was weird. It was just, and like the guy gets all like huffy, and I don't know, the guy that was the obsessed one, I can't remember, like their names don't really matter either, but the guy who was like obsessed was just so off the rails. Like he
Yeah.
had some mental problems.
Oh, he
like
had
he
anger
was bipolar
issues.
or something.
But it's also, I think, the mentality you got to think of people that are army brats, right? Like
Yeah.
they're so closed off from society. And here's the other strange part: you
Well, no,
you didn't
they
even
go
tell
to
them what
school.
happened. Yeah, well, no, but they're kind of
Well, yeah, they're isolated because they move around a lot. So,
yeah.
So these two finally got, they are able to have friends, which they probably have never had before.
Right.
And then so he ends up like, seeing this girl in school. He wanted to ask her out. She completely ignored him. But for some reason, he's like, she loves me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's like, I'm going to go ask
And
her
his
out.
buddy's like, yeah, right. He's like, she doesn't want to give you the
yeah.
time of day.
Or
like-
he's like, no, she's going to the movies with me.
and then he
so-
shows up in the movies and he's by himself.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
just
she
oh.
couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And just that type of bullshit.
He was delusional. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. So he goes to her house. He's like, oh, I'm just going to ask her out right out now. And next thing you know, like, he's running to his friend's house and is like, I need your help. Like, this got all fucked up.
Yeah.
And they run into the forest and she's dead.
Yeah.
Like, and he's made up this entire delusional story of how they were making out on
Literally,
the
they were
tree.
kissing in a tree.
Yeah.
Kissing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like she somehow falls, hits her head on a rock, and his friend's like looking around. He's like, "There's no fucking rocks here. Like, there's nothing to be found."
She's away from the tree.
Yeah, like she fell like 20 feet from the tree. Like nothing added up. But he was like, "Okay, like let me help you because you're in a fucked up situation. This is your friend. You want to believe the best."
Still, even so, like as soon
Then
as he's
they-
like, "Let me drag this body with you," I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I was like, and
The
we've
whole
seen
thing
things
is
like this
fucked,
play out
yes.
before in other other movies.
Of course.
Here's the thing I don't understand though. What idiots that they're of course they're gonna fucking find the body. Who else would have murdered the girl? It has
Yeah.
to be somebody that's there. They
Yeah.
are living on a fucking army base. It's like the worst place for
Yeah.
this to go down.
They're like, "Oh, nobody will look in this like cave."
Right.
It's like, well, yeah, they would when it
Yeah.
washes up and shit.
That's what I mean. I couldn't understand.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Well, clearly they weren't smart to begin with. So, but yeah, like I wanted more of this. Like it was just such a good little one and done.
I get what you're saying, but that's what I like about it.
Oh
is
no,
this
it was
nice
perfect.
one and done.
Yeah.
Kinda. Yeah.
But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I wish that they would write different stories, like a different one and done story. Like I liked this creative team.
Even back then, like when was this printed? How old is this? This is early '90s. Like you could
Uh,
tell, like this is Brubaker's bag.
93, yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like this is.
Well, and
this is-
apparently both of them are army brats. it
See, I knew
says here.
Brubaker was. I was surprised to see the bio at the end of the issue that said that Eric Schnauer was. I didn't
He
know
lived
that.
in Guantanamo Bay
Yeah,
as well.
see,
yeah.
I didn't know that, and that's the freaky thing that made me think that this might be a true story, knowing Brubaker's
Yeah.
kind of
Dun,
tarnished
dun,
past,
dun.
right? The way
Yeah.
he tells some stories sometimes, and how he says, "Oh, this kind of is a little bit like kind of what happened
Yeah.
to me," right? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. It was a wonderful surprise and treat
Oh
to
my
read.
God,
though.
yeah.
And the cartooning was spot on, like
Yeah.
the kind of classic indie black and white, very detailed cartooning of
Yeah.
that time. Like,
I loved it.
yeah, I
It
really
was
liked
so
it as
good.
well.
It was a delightful treat.
Yes. And so something we actually didn't end up doing last week, I mean, we agreed now instead of rating the books, by the way, which I probably should have mentioned at the top of the show, but if you haven't listened to our last couple episodes, we're
Or
not.
if you haven't listened to the first 20 minutes of this, you know
Right.
that we're not rating it.
Yeah, we're not rating these older books because we feel it's not as relevant to rate it now. We just rather have an open discussion because it's like we're not checking in on these books on a monthly basis.
No.
These are kind of like new finds to us, right? Things that we probably won't talk about again. So
Yeah.
we figured what's the point in rating them? But I think we did speak about maybe still picking our favorite of the week, which we failed to do last week. But I think for me, at least, probably for you too, is that Punisher Warzone.
Yeah.
I thought was the best one that I
Well,
read
yeah,
last
no, I
week.
think I thought
Did we announce
did.
that? I know we talked about it quite a bit.
I think
don't
our
know if-
excitement showed.
Yeah, sure.
If anything.
Sure. But that was but this week I would have to say it's that book right
Me
there.
too.
Yeah.
An accidental death. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was mine too.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one that I enjoyed the most, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
For
think it was
sure.
that one. Just because even more so because I thought he only drew it. That was the
Yeah.
whole reason I picked it up. Is because like I'd be
and
interested
I
just
like
to see his
Eric
cartoon.
Shanower too.
Yeah, he's good.
I liked him a lot.
Yeah. So yeah. So it was a good read. I enjoyed it. Some good stuff this week for sure.
Yeah.
Some good wine. All right, company. I guess with you being
You better get used to it. You're stuck here
I
for the long
know.
haul now.
Help me, guys. No. All right. So I guess that'll do it for this week. We'll see you guys next time, and thank you for tuning in.
Stay safe.